People who can't do this aren't interested. They're like, what's that? Who cares? They don't want to come. But if somebody comes, if I brought a friend of mine to a class who was just didn't really care, but just, this is my friend and they love me and they want to humor me, they come to the class, they can't do it.
Yeah.
See, it's every individual has to make this determination for themselves.
Dr. Linda Howe is an award-winning author, teacher, and world-renowned leading expert in the field of Akashic Studies. She is the founder and director of the Center for Akashic Studies and specializes in the use of Akashic Records for personal empowerment and consciousness development. Over the past 25 years, she has successfully taught thousands of people to work in the records as a spiritual practice. Dr. Howe, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Soul Collective podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited to be with you today.
Yeah, we've done a few episodes on the Akashic Records, and I'm so excited to really go even deeper and explore all the different nuances and teachings that you have really cultivated over the past, few decades. And I would just want to start by asking you, how would you define the Akashic Records?
Okay. So I want to tell you, I think it's great that you're starting at the beginning, because with this information, right, with a clear understanding of what the records are, then we can talk about a lot of things.
Yes.
But let's get this in place. Good thinking. The Akashic Record is a vibrational archive of every soul and their journey as human. So what this means, okay, it's the Akashic Record. It's, first of all, Akasha, right? It's a Sanskrit word. I'm from Chicago. Nobody uses that word. I never heard of it till I was 40. Anyway, so it's true, right? Now, what is that, Akashic? Anyway, so, and what it means is it means primary substance, that from which all things are formed. So the Akashic Record is made of this raw essence of life before we start engaging it, right? With our thoughts, our feelings, like that. So that's what the record is. And it's an archive, which is really it's a collection, right? Of every soul, past, present, and future. Now, here's the thing. The good news about that is that we're all included, all of us. The bad news is that we're all included, right? So that means that, if your ex or somebody you don't like, a terrible boss, they're still in the record. Yeah. And it is an energetic impossibility to erase somebody or vote someone out. We can't do that, because what comprises the record is this collection of all of us together. So it's a archive of every soul and its journey as human. This is very, very important, because the record does not have anything to say really about if we have lifetimes on other planets, which maybe we do. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Some people say they know. I don't know. We'll see when we'll see I don't know, at the perfect time we'll learn that. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, the record doesn't say, yes, we do have lives on other planets. It doesn't say, no, we don't. But the record does not address that. It only addresses, it relates to the earth, right? And it also doesn't have any comment about in the reincarnational cycle, if we move from being like human to animal, back to human, the record doesn't address that. Mm-hmm. Again, the record doesn't say, no, it's not true. The record has nothing to say about it. So if people, I think it's really important to understand what the record is, so that we don't set ourselves up for real disappointment, right, on our journey. So
yeah,
So that's, and then, there are two parts to every set of records, like yours, everybody's, two parts. One is permanent, it's fixed. And it's the way I understand it, it's the impression, the impression, the energetic impression of who you are. It's like your destiny. It's who you are destined to become. And it's etched into the fabric. I use the term loosely, the fabric of the soul. Yeah. That's constant throughout our lifetimes. And then what travels along with that it's like a collection of the lifetimes we live, through which we awaken to what this potential is, and then start to live it while we're still on earth as, imperfect human beings. So it's very interesting, because it used to be people would say, the record is fixed, it's in stone. And I was like, well, all right. And other people would say, the record is alive and it's evolving. And I didn't understand that. But by working in the record, I have come to really be able to identify, these two different parts to each set of records.
I love that.
Does that make sense to you?
It does, but I want to go back and clarify and just make sure that I understand. So you're saying energetically as a soul, we carry that essence with us from lifetime to lifetime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like the who you are, like Emily. I mean, in this lifetime, you're Emily. We know, whatever, but we're gonna go with Emily. So here's the thing. At the inception of the soul, it's as if the light of life, or the Akashic light, or the light of God, I mean, people who believe in God call it that, meets with your soul and shines. It's almost like, like if you had a photograph, like a negative, right, of a photo, and that shot through the fabric of your soul, the impression. And if we looked at it, we would see, like all your goodness and all the ways, like, because it's, the soul is made of love. So we would see the ways that you become a very loving human being while you're still in human form.
Yes.
I like how the soul, the light of the soul shines through you as a person.
Almost like our own unique blueprint in a way.
It is, yes. And you know what this is, I used to use the word blueprint a lot. I did. But I've kind of like found that got really confusing for people, because people would like open their records and say, I'm looking for the blueprint. I mean, it's like you're looking for an architectural drawing. It doesn't exist. It's vibrational.
Yes.
Do you see? So, of course, in my own work, in my own teaching, I've had to grow and change as I've learned more about the records. My communication about it has had to grow and change as well.
Oh, I bet. I have so many questions for you.
All right. I rolled up my sleeves.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, kind of diving in where you did, because I think even just the name, if we're not familiar with the definition, it can sound confusing. And so I appreciate the definition. And I guess one question that I have for you is, like, do you need to be psychic or have very, strong intuitive gifts in order to be able to access the records? And I guess the second part of that is that, were you always kind of drawn to this in this lifetime of this kind of spiritual study and delving into the records, or is it something that you kind of
stumbled upon?
Yeah.
All right. Wait, let's talk about this first question. What was the first question again?
About being psychic or into,
this is really something, because I would say absolutely not. See, the record is it's the treasury of your soul. Everybody has a soul, whether they're psychic or not.
Yeah.
psychic. I don't know. See, the record is spiritual, right? And the soul is spiritual, and spiritual is all about love. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Psychic for me, I only go to a psychic when I'm afraid.
So you don't consider yourself a psychic then, or
No. The record, and I'll tell you something, the record is terrible for fortune telling. It's terrible, right? So if you want a good fortune teller, I listen, and I know there are some great fortune tellers, right? People who specialize in different kinds of divination, whether it's tarot cards or whatever they do.
Yeah.
There are some fabulous people out there. They are not Akashic record readers. Akashic record readers, here's what makes the difference. See, what I've seen is people who are like really psychic or clairvoyant, they see things, they get very confused. They get very confused. They don't know, so and it's not helpful, right? When you're trying to like explore the record. That stuff is more of a distraction. It's more of like a hindrance than a help.
Yeah. Because it's more concrete, you would find, like almost.
Well, I don't know that, but I think it's just qualitatively different.
Got it.
Here's the thing. When we work in the record, we are, and using, I work with the pathway prayer process that was, anyway, we can talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But see, when we go into the record, we connect with this dimension. It's the soul, it's a soul level dimension of consciousness. Yeah. We connect with that dimension that is a natural part of who we are. We don't need supernatural abilities to do that.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
What we have to have is a sincere, and I think the operative word is sincere, a sincere desire to have a more conscious connection with our soul. Now, what's really interesting to me is like if somebody comes to a class and they really want to do this, they can do it. The only people who come to a class are people who have the ability to do it. It's a perfect universe.
Yeah.
People who can't do this aren't interested. They're like, what's that? Who cares? They don't want to come. But if somebody comes if I brought a friend of mine to a class who was didn't really care, but just, this is my friend and they love me and they want to humor me, they come to the class, they can't do it.
Yeah.
See, it's every individual has to make this determination for themselves.
Totally makes sense.
Which is good. Again, more good news, bad news. I don't know. Okay. I'm sorry, dear. What were you going to say?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, earlier in this lifetime for you, would you be surprised at this work that you're doing currently and what has become your life's work?
Yes and no. I'll tell you why. Do you know, I don't know if you know this, but when I was 24, I had a riveting moment of spiritual awareness. And what led up to it is, I was raised in a very traditional religion and traditional culture, all that kind of stuff. And what I learned, what I determined was that if I managed well, I would get to be happy. Right? If I did everything right, I would be happy. Right? I felt
follow all the rules.
If I followed the rules, if I studied hard, if I was a good girl, all that stuff. Right? So I woke up at the age of 24. I had a fabulous job. I didn't like it. I had a beautiful apartment. I had a closet full of great shoes. I mean, you know what? I had everything I wanted. I had a cool car. I actually had great friends. I had wonderful friends. I had a life that looked terrific. I could not believe that I felt so empty inside. Because see, I thought it was all about external accumulation,
Oh yeah.
I was like,
sounds familiar.
What? How can this be? So I prayed the desperate prayer, right? to a God I didn't even believe in. I was like, listen, if there's anybody out there, I really need some help. Anyway, so I have this moment a few weeks later, not long after. I had this moment. And in the moment, I am overcome with an awareness that who I am, that I am completely known. Like life is looking at me and can see everything about me. Completely known, completely loved, appreciated, like enjoyed. I don't mean like a sentimental, smarmy kind of love.
Yeah.
I mean like, oh, Linda. And wait, and there's more. And this really blew my mind. That who I am a part of the whole of creation. Like there's a whole of the universe. And it's almost like, and who I'm a part of the whole scene. I have to tell you, Emily, this blew my mind. And I thought, because I didn't know I thought, what is this? I thought, okay, here's the deal. I don't know what it is. Makes no sense to me. I certainly don't deserve it. But whatever it is, I must have it in my life.
Mm.
So I launched out on my quest and I did everything. Yeah, this was a while ago, but from 24 to 40, it's 16 years.
Yeah.
I did everything I could do. I did every workshop. And listen, everything was wonderful. And because see, what I was trying to do was recreate that experience.
Wow.
I thought, well, if that could happen once, it could happen again. Right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I tried everything. Anyway, and everything was good. Don't get me wrong. It was wonderful, but everything would be like, this is not quite right. And then I went to this. I heard someone say there was going to be, this woman was talking about the Akashic Record. I had no idea what this was. So I went and I thought this woman was like the biggest. She was very holy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
First of all, she was very glamorous and she was very holy. I would never have coffee with her because I thought she's holy and I'm not, clearly. It was pretty obvious to me. But anyway, the long and the short of it is, she said, here's how you open your records. I did what she said. And do you know, the experience I had in the records was the experience I had when I was 24.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, that really blew my mind.
Yeah.
So what I decided at the time was, I don't even know what this Akashic record is, right? But I'm going to get to the bottom of this. That's really what I thought. But I thought, I'll do this until it's no fun anymore.
Love it.
And that was in 1994.
So clearly you've enjoyed.
So it's changed my life. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It completely has. So it's not something like nobody talked about being in the records or doing spiritual work. Not in my world.
Do you feel like you've done this before in a prior lifetime?
That's an interesting question. Probably. Yes, but I don't think, I'll tell you what, this is so cool because up until really this point in history, 2021, up until now, the record has always been the domain of like saints and scholars and
yes,
like that, right?
Yep.
And this is the first time in the history of humanity that secular people like you and I can have a conscious connection with our own soul through the records. So my understanding, I'll tell you what, from my own work in the records, I've had such awareness of being, I want to say, of the records being important to me in different ways in different lifetimes.
Yes.
So I've had everything from being really freaked out and afraid, right? And having like
resistance again around it.
Resistance, but almost like I don't know about this. This is dangerous. This is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right? Of really being an opponent of the record. But because I was aware, like I was aware that there was something
Powerful
very powerful that I could not comprehend. So so I made it wrong. Anyway, so I've got all these lifetimes of this kind of, and also having an awareness of being in the record, you know, Central Asia, but very much as a monk, right? And so the big challenge in this life is, can I, you know, can I live the life of a regular human being, right? You know, with a mortgage and a dog and a maid and all these things. Can I live a regular life and still have this profound relationship with the record? And I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely possible. And I believe that people who are drawn to the record now are drawn to it for precisely that reason.
I love that so much.
Yes.
So I want to, you know, a couple different directions. First, like, would you be able to discern whether somebody is a new soul or an old soul by accessing the records?
Oh, yes. This is a great one, because, you know, in what we understand as a spiritual community, this issue of the age of the soul is important to us, right? Anyway, whatever. But here's the thing. From a record standpoint, we're all the same age.
Wow.
There's no such thing. What is this new soul, old soul? No. See, from a record standpoint, all souls came into possibility, at the same moment in time. Now, awareness is a different story, right? Some souls have been aware for many lifetimes. Some souls are just waking up. Some souls were awake and went back to sleep.
How does that work?
How does it work? Okay, listen, I don't know about you, but you know, so here's the thing. Okay, we want to understand from an Akashic perspective the purpose of reincarnation. Reincarnation is not random. I mean, you know what I mean? There's really a point to it.
Yeah.
From an Akashic perspective, the goal, the intention of reincarnation is that each one of us come to love ourselves as we are loved by life, which is unconditionally. Now, beautiful. What that means, though, that's hard. You know, I thought that
easier said than done, right?
I thought, oh, that's cool. Then I'm like, I don't know about this. Because here's the thing. We go from lifetime to lifetime. And in each incarnation, the question is the same. Can I love myself now? So whatever I have a judgment against, maybe I have a judgment against royalty, and I'm like, then I will come back as the Queen of England, right? Because I don't like royalty. So
the soul will basically essentially choose other family members' souls, experiences.
Absolutely. Lifetime after lifetime, so that we are always expanding our experience of being known, loved, and knowing and loving others. Okay. Now, as you know, some lifetimes are really hard, right? People experience tremendous loss or great, you know, all kinds of terrible things. I mean, you've been alive long enough to, you read the paper this morning. Things happen. I mean, it's a nut house out there. So sometimes a soul will just need a break, or will need a chance to integrate. And so my thought is, it's kind of like if a lifetime has been particularly challenging, I may sit on the bench for a while.
Yeah.
That's how I understand it.
Thank you for explaining that. That's been a question of mine for a while, because I feel like we're continuously wanting to grow and evolve.
Yes.
But like the brain can sometimes think of it in a linear fashion where it's, it's not necessarily that way.
Right. And I think, you raise a really interesting point, because we are linear thinkers. And so it's helpful to us in a lot of ways to think of past lives, future lives. Otherwise, we go nuts, because the thought of everything happening simultaneously, that's really that is very tough. Like, how do I drive my car if I'm thinking I'm living 7,000 gazillion life? Like, wait a minute here. Am I driving the car? Am I, in the fishing village?
That might not be like a 101
oh.
teaching. Yeah. But
cool.
We can access future lives. Yes.
I'll tell you what we can access. This is very interesting. When we work in the record, okay, the principle is energy first, information second. Okay, so what that means is, if I go into the record, the only reason I would be able to connect with, in a conscious way, an incarnation from my past or my future is if that incarnation has a bearing on this one. See, the record, if I open my record and say, tell me my past lives, you know what I get? Because I've asked this question. Why are you asking? What do you want to know? See, I don't know about you, but I know for so long I thought of the spiritual journey as like entertainment. And it is entertaining, absolutely. But there's more to it than that. There's purpose. So if a future life is, I want to say, having a bearing, making a contribution to my consciousness, now I will become aware, not of the whole life, We don't need that. So much of our lifetimes are wandering around, drinking tea, brushing our teeth, whatever the heck we do, right? Watering plants, who cares? We don't need all that. What is helpful in the record, it's like a sliver of moments when we make choices or decisions that impact us now.
That is so fascinating. And so, like, I'm by no means an expert, but this is something that I was talking about with one of our mutual friends, is about, the fact that when I have access to records, it hasn't been like when I'm a priestess in a past life, or, something, it's been actually very, traumatic experiences that I feel like my soul is ready to clear or heal.
Right. So, and this is especially when, this is really good, because see, when we first start working in the records, by first start, I mean, we want to keep in mind we're infinite beings. So 10 years is nothing. So, but so what will happen is, we go, I'll go into the records with an issue in this life. Let's say I have a health issue. Well, then what I can ask for, guidance or insight, or when did this all start, or I really want to make peace with this, whatever. And I will have an awareness of a previous lifetime when I was very sick, or when something terrible happened. And see, in the records, this is really cool. What holds difficult, unfortunate, unfavorable experiences in place are our negative judgments and interpretations. One of the watchwords of the records is judge not, right? So it's one of the absolutes. It's like a governing principle of the field. So I go into the record and I'm like, oh my God, I had this lifetime where either I was sick and I was mad at myself, or someone I loved was sick and I was really mad at them because of my judgment.
Yes.
The question then becomes, can I love myself even though I was judgmental? Can I love myself even though I was sick? And by doing that, what happens is the energy in the moment gets released. From an Akashic perspective, what releases, what ignites release is acceptance. And that doesn't mean we like it. It just means it's like, oh, wow, that's the way it really, like really, that's how I really feel, right? That's what was really going on. That acceptance loosens the pattern and the pattern can start to fall away.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Linda, what if somebody is like, well, just focusing on all the stuff that is going on in this lifetime is quite a lot. And, I don't know about accessing all of these past lives. Like, what would you say that, the benefit to the soul is?
From working in the record, the benefit of the soul. Okay, here's what. Because I've had periods of time where I'm just like, I have no inclination to explore prior lifetimes.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care. Right. That's the way it is. I've had other times where I'm fascinated. So it's just, life. You're here long enough and you experience all kinds of things. But I'll tell you what has been consistent in my experience of the records. So, in the saying of the prayer, the pathway prayer, I get into the records, I'm conscious, I'm responsible and deliberate. I move into this dimension of awareness, and I am met with this sense of being known, loved, appreciated, held in high regard, with an awareness. This always blows my mind. Even though I have this sense of being held in high regard, there's an awareness that as a human being, I'm not perfect. But it's not bad, right? It's just the way it is. That experience of unconditional love and respect, kindness, appreciation, right? That experience has transformed my relationship with my own life. And that's the ultimate benefit of working in the record. And the insights, see, from that place, life looks very different. Relationships everything looks different. It's kind of like, we put on a new set of glasses, right? Because through that lens, life looks very different. Yeah. And it's good, right? And it's better. It's better.
I want to go back to something that you said about like having a friend, inviting them and there might not have the intention of accessing the records. Now, I'm would imagine intention is one of the key things, but I'm wondering other things that maybe make it difficult for somebody to access the records, like whether it's self-love or not feeling,
I'll tell you what. Okay. So what can really cause problems for people? Because people will be like, oh, I want to do it, right? Or somebody said, oh, you'll be good in the records. Anyway, and they try it and they get nowhere, and then they're frustrated, and it's just terror. It's heartbreaking, right? Here's the problem. The first problem is we must have a realistic understanding of what the record is and what's available to us. When people think, I'm going to open the record, it's going to be a big golden book, I'm going to meet a bunch of tall guys in brown robes with hoods, they're going to show me I'm on page 37. Well, that's not going to happen. There are other people who say, I must go to the library of the records. I'm like, see, we use very visual words when we talk about the record. I think I've seen 5 things in all these years, decades. I'm not visual. So so we have to have an accurate understanding of what the record is and the value, right? What's possible for us. We have to understand that you can have all the natural talent. You know this yourself. There are people, they are so dang talented. It's like, oh my God, but they refuse, their egos get in the way. They refuse to learn.
Yeah.
So it's a shame because, see, in the class, if someone comes to a class, I don't give them something they don't already have. You bring the talent to the class. I show you the rules of the road.
Mm.
See, any nut, and I do mean nut, can be in an altered state. I mean, you can do that with a couple of drinks. I mean, I've certainly done it. We've all done it. Like, it's an altered state. So what? See, what we want to do is to be able to move into a dimension of awareness, be conscious, responsible, deliberate, and to come back, right? And to bring forward the truths that we've recognized and to transform our day-to-day lives.
Yes. Yeah.
Very different. So the other thing is, when people are attached to, there are two, it's like if we're going down a road, on one side, one of the big ditches, like we're going to go into the ditch, is self-doubt.
Yes.
They're like, is this the records? Is this the records? It's like, just stop for a minute and help the person who's in front of you, right?
Yeah.
See, part of it, it's like what's required is that we stop thinking about ourselves for a minute. Scary,
get out of our own way, right?
And to turn our thoughts to others and how we can be helpful. Okay, so self-doubt. Oh, is this right? Is this right? We get stuck. It's like we get stuck. The other thing is, people who, I want to say, they have a false confidence, overconfidence, like, I'm going to the records. Yes, I'll get in. I mean, it's like just a minute, it's kind of like, when my son was like 12 or 13, he's a very big guy. He had the physical ability to drive a car. He did not have the consciousness to drive a car. And he's like, I can reach the pedals. What's the problem? I'm like, this, I'm afraid.
It's a great analogy.
But do you know what I'm saying? And so it's sometimes people come to a class, they're like, I can do this. I don't need these rules. Well, and what's interesting, in the records, we work with these guidelines, right? Guidelines for doing readings, like some things that help, like you don't want to have alcohol for 24 hours before a reading because it loosens the edge of your energy field. And you find yourself, you lose your authority. You find yourself weakened by all kinds of things. And, like we don't open the records of people who are deceased or in a coma. I mean, there's a few, but guidelines. But the thing about the guidelines don't say anything. They have no comment on what you eat, what you wear, what you do, none of that. You do whatever you're an adult, you can do whatever you want. But when it comes to the records, if you want to be successful, it's always better to follow the guidelines.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. I love that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about soul contracts and then how we might sort of heal some of that ancestral patterns, or if we're having a particularly maybe tough relationship and we go back and maybe are able to, I don't know, witness a prior lifetime with that individual.
Okay. So we're gonna go back. First of all, a soul contracts, I don't even know what that is. I think that's something we made up so that we feel important. I have I don't even know. It doesn't make sense to me. Right. So,
but you don't feel like people reincarnate with other souls to like learn lessons?
Yes, but I don't think I don't know.
Yeah, don't define it in those terms.
I would not go there with it.
Okay.
Karma. Okay. From an Akashic perspective. Okay. So we know karma, cause and effect, right?
Yeah.
We like karma. Karma's good, right? It's a natural cycle. We eat too much cake. We have to get bigger genes, cause and effect. Very simple. But where things get problematic is when we have a negative judgment, interpretation, harsh criticism of ourselves, the other people involved, or the behaviors. Okay. And then what happens is we keep repeating it until we make peace with ourselves.
Mhm.
Right.
I do really well with examples. I'm wondering if you
I'm
would
gonna
be
give-
able to.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example, but that's the principle. Okay. So here's the deal. This woman comes, and it also has to do with the ancestral, because it's an ancestral thing. This woman comes for a reading. Here's the deal. Her mother is an alcoholic. She hates her mother. She's so mad at her mother, she could wring her neck, basically. Okay. The problem is she's suffering. This is a good person. She wants to love her mother. She hates her mother. Then she's so upset about her mother being an active alcoholic that, of course, she goes out into the world and all of her friends, you know the story, she gets to know people, they're all active alcoholics. And she is surrounded. Then she looks in her family, they're all out. Everybody's an alcoholic. I mean, it's right. She's like, oh my God, my mother, my grandmother. So by this time, she is in a state. Okay. She doesn't even know what to do with herself. And she's doing all the things that we do. She's cutting cords. She's putting up boundaries. She's doing all kinds of stuff. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. The problem is she has not accepted herself in the situation. So we go into the records, and the records are like, so what's so great? So your mother's an alcoholic. You're really angry about that. Can you love yourself even though you're mad at your mother? Can you love yourself even though your mother's an alcoholic? Not can you love your mother? She had been sending her mother light for years. The mother was like, bug off. I don't want your prayers, your light, and your, get out of here. Okay. So the thing is, could she love herself even though she could not heal her mother? So then what started to happen is the guidance in the records was, can you let yourself be right in the presence of your mother? And can you let your mother be who she is? Okay. So what starts to happen is this. She sees her mother. She's not as mad. The mother stops. So the less upset my client is, the less ridiculous her mother is. It's almost like, and I don't know if you've ever heard this, it's almost like her mother was drinking at her. Like, I'll show you, Missy, like this.
Yes.
Then what happened was she got up one day. She kept working with this, working in her records, accepting, understanding. Of course, she would have all these people. The challenge was to love herself, even though her mother was an alcoholic, even though all her friends were alcoholics, and even though her relatives were alcoholics. Could she love herself? Over time, the records are not magic. This isn't magic. Over time, she let go of this judgment, realized her mother, her mother's an adult. Her mother gets to do what she wants with her life. This is her mother's path. Leave her alone. So what has started to happen was she was not upset with her mother. She didn't care if her mother was drinking or not. But what she decided was that she didn't want to hang out with her if she was drinking. That's all. Other than that, that was the only thing. She never said to her mother, you have to stop drinking, which she always used to say. Then what started to happen is that she would be with the mother and not be bothered. And then what started to happen was her friends started to change. Right? Everything. Her family, they never changed. But what changed was her. She stopped being bitter, controlling, judgmental, all those things. That, but see, the records were like, of course you're upset. This is hard.
Yeah.
But it's the opportunity of many lifetimes to love yourself, even though, because she was like, I'm a healer. Well, what is that? See, this is spiritual work. This is, you're not what do you mean you're a healer? What is that? See, we're here. So the shift, when she experienced that shift, that no one was doing anything wrong, she was free.
Mm.
The karma was within her. It was not between her and her mother. Her mother was the same with everybody. She was not getting special treatment from her mother.
That's such a great example. And I do feel like, the wound, if it's not healed, we attract that. It's like a magnet, for our friends and family, we'll continuously.
Yes, that's what. And so, I mean, and you understand this, Emily, that the world we live in is a physical or material representation of our consciousness. So anything that's, I want to say, off within us, it always looks like it's someone else.
I know. Funny how that works out like that.
That might not be the case. Do you see? And that is what, and that's how all of this works.
I love it. A question that you must get often is around soul purpose. And how would you say that we can use the Akashic Records to be able to get better in touch with our soul's purpose?
Okay. So here's the thing with soul's purpose. Our soul's purposes are not a secret. They are not a secret. Again, we're looking at, can I accept who I am as a human being? Because when I do, our soul's purposes are the unique individual ways through which we can experience love in ourselves and unleash. Everybody talks about it. I mean, this, like within you, within me, there is a reservoir of infinite, eternal love. The question is, how the heck do I get to it? The soul's purposes. So like, there are things like in my work, I cannot help myself. I have to work in the records. And I know that it might sound, I write books, I teach, I do all this stuff. Why? I don't know why. I can't help myself. That's a sign it's your soul's purpose. I have a friend, and she says to me, I have no soul's purpose. Nah, nah, nah. She feels terrible about herself. And as we're talking, it's so interesting because it turns out she is a mother. She's got 3 kids. She's got a lot of friends. She's got the friends, kids, everybody. But here's the thing about this woman. Everybody, if she decides she's on somebody's side or on somebody's team, right, in their life, she will move heaven and earth to help them succeed. That's a soul's purpose. It has nothing to do with money. Right. But what it has to do with is like, she loves this. But she's like, oh, that can't be a soul's purpose. I call it empowering people. She's like, oh no, that's just helping out the kids.
Right.
That's what she calls it. But you and I would say that is a soul's purpose at work.
Yeah. And, I do find that it's helpful when you feel like, oh, there's a niche that I just love. And it's, it's tied to my innate, blueprint or soul essence.
Right. Yes. It's thrilling. But see, what I know for myself, I have to tell you something. When I first came into the records, I thought, this is the nuttiest thing I've done yet. I didn't know anybody, because nobody was doing it. There was no such thing. You understand? There was a handful of people and they were weird. And then when my first book came out, there was nothing on Amazon. There wasn't like now you go to this was 2009. there was nothing on the Akashic Records. I mean, I got people writing me hate letters. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. That's the Akashic Record. I thought, well, they're scared. I mean, they were more scared than I was. I was nervous. I wasn't scared. But, you know, it's like, how could this be anything? And yet it has been the thing that just keeps coming back.
That's such a great example.
Do you see?
Yeah, because I often think that our soul purpose is the thing that doesn't necessarily make like logical sense, you know, but it's something that our heart just gravitates towards, you know?
Yes, 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 yes. Do you know what? I'll tell you. I love to ice skate. I love it. I'm not that good, but that's not the point. But I'll tell you something. I go to the ice skating rink, and there are kids out there. Their parents cannot keep them off the ice. They cannot. These are kids who are sleeping in their ice skates. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's 100 degrees here, and these kids are clamoring to get to the ice skating rink. That's a soul's purpose. Do you know? And it's easy to see in some of those more extreme examples.
Yes.
Right. But there are other people like my friend with all the kids. She's like, oh, this can't be my soul's purpose. She goes, it's no big deal. It's, you know, it's not that mystical. It's not, but no, our soul's purposes have to do with the personality that we have, right? And the life in which we really live, not the one we think we're going to live later, right? It's all about reality. And it is the way, the biggest clue to our soul's purposes, I talk a lot about it in my 4th book, is that when we're doing it, we feel love. Right?
Yes.
I don't care how insignificant it is always that experience.
Yeah.
That's your clue.
And could we ask, like, if we set that intention and we, you know, go through the prayer process that you teach, could we ask specifically about our soul purpose? Is that something that you would recommend?
Sure. I think it's a good starting place. But what I've learned about the record has never said to me, oh, Linda, here's your soul's purpose. Right? I've gone in and said, listen, you know, I've tried all kinds of things. I've been like, listen, I'm here all the time. You know who I am. Tell me, what's my soul's purpose, right? And they're like, look in your life today, right? What are you doing today that really makes you happy? I'm like, no. I want to just tell me what it is. Because see, I'm a good sport. You're a good sport. I'm like, I'll do it. Just tell me what it is.
Totally.
Right? The records are like, no, because part of the power of the record is that through our relationship with our records, we become the people we have dreamt that we would be.
It's beautiful.
Right? This is not about some oracle spoon feeding us ideas like little children. We've done that. It's been a lot of fun. But some of us didn't grow up. Oops. Yeah, I skipped that part. So now we get to do it.
How can we use the records to really to manifest more of our heart's desires?
Okay. So one of the great things about working in and really manifesting, right, more of what we want and less of what we don't want, right, is that in the record itself is a spiritual sanctuary. It's a sacred space of real reverence. And as we sit in the records and explore questions like this, the truths that are embedded in our soul that we have been accumulating for lifetimes, they come into focus, right? So the records don't give us anything. The Akashic light shines and the truths that are within us come into focus. Because there's no judgment, no fear, no resistance in the record, it is much easier to be honest. For human beings, like if we feel like we're going to be judged or somebody's going to make fun of us, we are instantly dishonest. We don't mean to be, but we're going to sugarcoat it some way, somehow. But see, in the record, it's like, oh, honey, of course you want that. Of course that's right. Everything is all right. When everything is all right and we are emotionally safe, we begin to let ourselves know about our true desires. What I've seen more than anything with people who are struggling to manifest what they want, the problem is it's not what they really want. Right? People come, they're like, I want this job. And they go on and on and on. The problem is it's not what they really want. It's just not. What they really want, they're embarrassed about. Or, you know, listen, I have a client, this is fascinating. She's a doctor. Now, in my mind, that's a big deal. You get through medical school alive. My hat's off to you. I just think of the homework. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, and the math, oh my heavens. Anyway, so she goes to medical school. Here's the problem. She don't like it. She becomes a doctor. She's a very good doctor as far as this goes. The only problem is she don't like being a doctor. What she likes the money. She likes the prestige. She likes the fact that she tells people what to do and they do it. I mean, there are a lot of things about being a doctor that are, you know, great, right? She's like stroked. The problem is she doesn't like sick people. She really has no interest, but I'll tell you what she loves. This is so funny. She loves real estate development. Now, in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, no, right? She loves buildings and plumbing and electrical and having everything together. She loves buying old buildings, rehabbing, flipping, you know, all this stuff that people do. She wanted to leave being a doctor. But of course, her parents would have to kill her because it cost a fortune. You know, I mean, it just goes on. Her husband was going to have anyway, you know the whole story. I mean, it was like, everybody's like, you can't.
What? Yeah.
You know, she got fired. Great. She got fired, but now you know what she's doing? She is doing the real estate. She is so happy.
I love that.
So life always steps in when we can't, like if we can't do it ourselves, life always wants to help us. You know, if we have an open mind and can see the opening. Anyway.
Yeah, that's such a great example. And I think it's true. And I also think it's a great poignant example of how, you know, much there can be societal pressure to not let that, you know, unique soul essence out. And that's why it's so awesome to have conversations like these, because it's like, hey, you know, it takes some work and it takes some soul searching, and
yes,
you know,
it really does. And I'll tell you, in my own experience, if someone had told me in 1994 that I would wake up in 2021 and I'd be talking to you about the records, I would have told them they were out of their bloody minds. This is never going to happen, right? I mean, I had like a fancy job back then, just because I hated it. I mean, it was just crazy. But one step at a time, right? One decision at a time, with the light shining and saying, okay, do this next. Consider this now. See, life happens in the moment, and the records are available to us in the moment. So whatever moment we're in, there is an infinite, tremendous light that can shine on who we are and the life we're in and the options we have. And we can begin to make inspired choices, right, that are closer. we can't go from being like a gazillion miles away from our true self to our true self in a minute. As human beings, we have to grow into it. In consciousness, you can be there, right? You know this. It's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
in a
Yes.
second, but like, what do you mean I have to grow into it in the world? But that's where the work is, right? Can I do it now? And can I do it now? Anyway.
And those small steps can make such a big difference. We don't have to,
It's the path, right? The path of sustainable transformation.
Yes.
Sustainable, non-traumatic transformation is a step at a time. Because see, when we're not scared, we can be loving and happy and do great things. When we're scared, things get very thorny, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I have loved this conversation so much.
Oh, good. I'm so happy to be with you. It's wonderful to be with you. You're really, you're very clear and your questions are so like right here and right now. I thank you very much. I know that like you and I have this really beautiful connection. And
I feel that as
I'm
well.
like, whoa, this is a bonus. We're in the bonus round.
I know. I could talk to you for hours. So we'll have to have you back on the show because I've got lots more questions. But I know your website is Linda Howe.
LindaHowe.com is my website.
Yeah.
And then I also have a school, right? The Linda Howe Center for Akashic Studies.
Yes.
And so, because see, over the years, this curriculum has been revealed to me, right? And that's what I teach. And I train teachers who teach, and we have a full everything from like, what do you call it? Like online classes, small ones to big ones. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know a couple people who have gone through your school and actually have been, guests on the show. So, I've heard extraordinary things about your program.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And thank you so very, very much.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Linda. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you so much.